How did I become a doctor? How did I become a cardiologist? A lot of people don't know that medicine was never my number one goal in life. It was actually athletics. Why? Because I knew that being that we moved from Nigeria, I wanted to use something to be able to go to college. Not just go to college next to free. And I didn't know this until I started playing some sports. I tried out football initially and I wasn't the best at it. So I switched to soccer, being Nigerian, tried that out and I was actually pretty good. Not at goalkeeper. We actually got beat 17-0 at one point. And that was the first time I was ever a goalkeeper. People said, why didn't you stop any goals? And my reply back was, why didn't my teammates score any points? But nevertheless, soccer was not for me because I was too selfish with the ball. And I was not a good goalkeeper, of course. Did wrestling, and I was actually pretty good in wrestling. I would say that in the JV class, I was the best wrestler. Though some people wanted to challenge me, and I had to humble them from time to time. When we moved from Atlanta, Georgia to Oak Ridge, Tennessee, they didn't have a wrestling team. I actually met with the football coach, who was probably one of the most influential people that I met outside of my parents at that time. And they tried me out at basically said, we don't have a wrestling team, would you consider playing football? My next question was, what position? Because didn't really know too much about football. I was a sophomore in high school at that time. And they said that they really needed a linebacker, or they needed a future linebacker. I was at that time about 135 to 145 pounds. And I remember them asking me, what do they need me to be at to be a linebacker? And it was around 180 to 200. And it blew my mind because this was the first time since soccer and wrestling that I actually got to gain weight. It wasn't on a caloric restriction. For those of you who do wrestling, you know what it means to lose 5 pounds in 2 hours with the trash bags and running and not eating to make weigh-in. Fast forward, I ended up gaining close to 40 to 50 pounds.
Damn!
In 3 years. I started off at 140 pounds as a sophomore and then actually ballooned up to 200, but it was around 190, 195 linebacker as a senior. Got faster, got taller, of course, went from 5'9" to 5'11". My 40 speed, though it was hand clocked, was about 4'5". If you do it in reality, it was probably between a 4'7" and a 4'8". And it wasn't until my senior year I built myself up. I rode the bench, sophomore, junior year, senior year, time for me to shine, right? And it was that time that I was a starting linebacker. And unfortunately, I think it was the fourth game, had a gruesome injury, broke my leg, a tib-fib fracture, open tib-fib fracture, meaning that the bone actually broke through the skin. I saw my bones, saw the blood. And throughout this whole process, I knew that the way my leg looked, I was not going to play football again. No one knows is that my mother is a psychiatrist, so I always knew about medicine, and I always thought if I'm not going to be an athlete, what I'm going to be is going to be a doctor. So when that was absolutely taken away from me, I got into it. I got into the books that I was going to make it. And it was very helpful that my parents, despite knowing that I wanted to do sports to make it out, they preached the importance of education. So I was able to go to ETSU on some academic scholarships. I didn't have my parents paying for everything, but very thankful for what they called the pocket money that they gave me each semester to be able to afford food, books, and entertainment, as we like to say. But through that injury, I was able to basically shift my focus from sports to medicine and just keep attacking after it. But it wasn't easy for me because I didn't get into medical school. My first attempt or my second attempt, I actually went a little bit around and went to medical school in the Caribbeans, and very upset initially about it, but had good insight from my cousin who was already doing medical school there. She was actually a third year when I reached out to her, and she said it was definitely worth it, go for it. Still nervous, still upset. There's a little bit of pride that, you're going to medical school in the Caribbean and there's some negative connotations about that, but still went for it. But let's fast forward 10 years later. Met my wife at medical school. Now we have a beautiful son and daughter, so it's definitely worth it. Through the struggles, through breaking my leg, ended up going to medical school in the Caribbean, and then ended up meeting my wife and having 2 amazing kids. the struggles didn't stop there, because medical school itself was a struggle. I was always on the brink of not making it and just meeting what it needed, but I just kept on pushing after it. And my wife was the biggest support system for me. She's on a completely different level. She's an OBGYN, and just, I always knew, like in medical school, she didn't belong at there. She needed to be at Hopkins or something, but she stayed, thankfully, and we were able to basically grow together, struggle together. We remember the times when we had nothing, and now we have a house, we have 2 kids. It's just an amazing blessing. But a little bit of my story: through the struggles of breaking my leg, having a gruesome injury, found the courage to find a substitute other than sports with academics and going after it, having a good support system, family, friends, and wife, and just kept going through it. And that continued during my residency. I struggled a few more times to get into fellowship, but on my 3rd attempt, through, once again, my wife and my family pushing me to continue to go forward and forward, was able to finally get my dream job as becoming a cardiologist. Now I've been working for 2 years and completely thankful. That is a brief story. It is 80 degrees out here, and I'm going to swimming practice, so I have my swimming outfit underneath here, hence why I have this black jacket on and I am sweating. Could I have picked something better? Absolutely, but I wanted to make this video just for people to hear my story. And if anybody has any questions, you know what to do. Drop some comments so I can help answer some questions, and possibly your question could be my next video.